Alright, so today is May 4th, which means Star Wars Day. I thought, why not film like the behind the scenes? I've kind of made similar videos to this of how I film Cardistry videos, but those are kind of outdated, so of course it's time for an updated one. And some of my gear has even changed as well in my process, and I'm kind of winging this, so if I stumble over words or if I ramble, sorry. The first step of filming a Cardistry video is to have a plan or an idea of what you want to film. So you kind of want to determine the theme of your video. So mine is Star Wars. I want this to kind of be like a duel, so decide what decks you're going to use. My idea is to use both the blue light side deck and red dark side deck by Theory 11. And I also want to do outfits that kind of match. So since I've got the light side characters, since this is kind of their color palette of outfits that they wear. And then of course for dark side, I've got this outfit of just a dark hoodie and black pants. And then I also got like shoes. The outfit and the shoes especially aren't exactly necessary, and it also depends on the clothes or shoes that you own. It's probably good to pick out the music beforehand, but you can pick it out after you film the videos. So I like to make a little list of moves. I like to choose moves that also fit the theme if possible. Otherwise, if I don't have moves that fit the specific theme, I just do the moves that I'm comfortable with or I think that look good with the deck. For example, if I'm using a deck with a circle on the back, I might want to do a move that requires some kind of spin. And then for the shots, you want to think about the angles that the move looks good at, or the shots that you just want to incorporate, whether it's like a top-down shot or a over-the-shoulder shot, front shot, like whatever. This is not a filming tutorial necessarily, but just a basic overview. If you have a song in mind, it's good to visualize the shots that you want for each part of the song, so that would be helpful in your planning so that you know how you're going to edit it too as well. So I'm filming this inside my room, and I recently got home from college, so my room is kind of a mess. I'm gonna film in this little corner. Now it's time for the setup. So you want to, of course, a decent camera. You can use an actual camera. The camera I'm using is the Sony ZV-E10 with the Sigma 1.4 aperture lens. So I can't really zoom anything, but it's got a really good focus and depth of field. So that's kind of what I would like in my videos, and I think it's really good quality. But you can also just use like a kit lens, which is a lot smaller and easier to travel around with if you want to go to a park or outside to film. But again, you can just use your phone. One thing to note though is that with the phone, you want to use the back camera because it's higher quality than the front one. But that also means that you can't see the screen though when you're filming, so it might help to get like a mirror, or if you have friends to help you film, they can of course just hold the camera. But since I don't have any friends, I'm using a tripod. There are plenty of other tripods like this one that I have with the light, and that leads into lighting. You want to have good lighting, well, depending on, again, the vibe of the video. Some people like to have the video be dark, but you don't want it to be too dark to where you can't actually see anything. Okay, this is not like one of those like Netflix shows where you can't see crap. You want to have at least enough lighting on the cards. You don't have to have lighting on really anything else. In terms of lighting, you can use window light, ring lights, but those can be a little bit more pricey, as well as more studio kind of lights, LED lights like this, which you can get off Amazon and just plug in and adjust the brightness. There are these little films that you can put over your light to change the color, which is what I want to do. Slide it over. Want to have a decent enough microphone, so I'm using the Rode Video Micro. I just think the sound of the cards is nice, especially if you're doing like an ASMR style, unless it's like windy outside and you can hear the wind. If you're not going to use the sound, you can just put music over it. This is going to be for an Instagram reel, so of course I've got to take the camera and turn it vertically like so. So I think I'm gonna start by filming the light side first. That transition might look terrible. My least favorite part is the setup, because I just don't like having to move the tripod. It just gets annoying, but I think something like this, right? Like, we'll get closer here in a second, but something like this, and I'm just to set the stage that there's a light side and a dark side. You know, kind of dramatic scene, I guess. Hopefully this turns out alright. But after we do this setup shot, we're gonna get to filming some actual cardistry. So for the card shots, actually I want to film just some shots of the actual deck as well, besides straight up cardistry, just so people can see the cards. So kind of like the back design and maybe some of the faces of the cards as well, like the characters, just to make the video not too focused on cardistry, just so people can actually see the cards, because some people would just like to see the cards, especially since this is a really well-designed deck by 311. Plug. Also check the description if you are interested in getting these cards. There's gonna be a link below. It might be just a tad darker than necessary. I feel like one of the biggest struggles that I have with filming cardistry videos is that I have an idea, but in terms of execution, I usually fail. Or maybe that's just my perfectionism taking over, because people still do leave comments, and I do overall still like the video I make, but it's just not quite to how I want it to be, I guess. But this looks quite nice, I think. So just kind of stand here and yeah, stare at the camera, since that's the point. I think my idea is to have the light side, you know, be somewhat happy. Usually when I film, I try to get a few shots of the same thing, or a few varied shots, so that I have things to play around with editing. I'm gonna hit myself while editing this still. Alright, so I think that's good. And then I realized that I don't want to have to set this all up again, so I might just have to film this shot in the dark side outfit, and then stay in the dark side outfit to film the cardistry, and then switch back. That's another thing I don't like that much about filming, but I think this is gonna look quite nice, or hopefully nice enough to my liking, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if other people like your video, as long as you like it, then that's what matters. I think that might be okay. I don't know if I want the hood up or down, so again, this is where it comes in that I can stay in this setup and refilm a few shots. I guess I'm gonna do more of a confused face, a judgmental confused face, because I don't like my mad face. I already have like resting mad face. Oh, that looks so stupid. I am not intimidating enough for this. I am not an Anakin Skywalker, dude. I don't know how to do the hood shot without it looking cringy as heck. I think I'm just like not intimidating enough for this. Man, what am I doing? Maybe this hood isn't even big enough either. Maybe I could do like take the hood off, but then I got like messy hair. I don't know, I feel like that probably looks sillier than I'm going for. Okay, so now it's time to film the cardistry. So I have my move list, but even though I have my list, I like to just do a few extra moves just in case. I don't really care about having a viral video time. I don't want to edit too long of a video. So first, reposition my tripod, and I try not to have any of the tripod legs showing.
Mission failed. We'll get them next time.
I don't like that. Angle it like such. This should be pretty good. And of course you want the cards to be in focus. I like to have it in autofocus because this camera is pretty good at getting focused. I know my older camera though was not very good so I had to use like manual focus, and we were also at 125 shutter speed and 125 ISO, and of course the first move I mess up. Sometimes I will go through the deck and find a specific card that I want to be displayed. And then I want this to be like the lightsaber sound. One note is that when you do certain moves, it might help, especially if you're filming on a tripod at least, is to move around so that they can see different angles of the move. Gotta love dropping cards. I moved 2 cards to where I can use them, and then of course I mess it up. I'm just gonna cheat at, and I just want the spin part, then gotta make it look like I'm doing the force. Whoops. That was a little botched, but that's okay. Well. Okay, so I think that video took me about 2.5 to 3 hours to edit. I used DaVinci Resolve, it's free. I cut up all my footage, cutting out my mistakes, cutting out the parts I didn't want, cutting out even like the openers of some moves, and I actually overshot. So I had to get rid of a lot of the footage that I initially wanted to use. And then kind of going along with cutting, you want to get music, unless you're doing like an ASMR style video. But if you're gonna use music, you wanna cut on beat. Now, there are different beats that you can cut to. There may also be like some other kind of sounds that would work to cut on. So again, it's up to your own style and what you want to do. Sometimes I'll watch an edit and I'll be like, huh, that's an interesting editing choice because I would have cut on this beat and this beat, not that beat and that beat. It was kind of a trial and error thing. Sometimes I'll put a clip in one spot and then realize I don't like it. I like to get the sound of the music to try and match certain actions. And besides cutting, you can add zooms, and that just adds more motion to the clips. And then you can also add some video effects. So like for this video, I added a glow effect for whenever I open the cards. So that way it kind of actually looks like a lightsaber glowing, because I added the lightsaber sound effect with it. I also added like the Star Wars light speed video effect that I found off of YouTube. I thought it looked pretty cool. And then I had to cut out the middle of it so that it wasn't like overlaid on my face, because that doesn't look good in my opinion, and I didn't want it blocking the cards. And I even added this flicker light effect to dramatize me taking off my hood a little bit more. So those were just a few of the effects I used in this particular video. Of course, there are other effects you can use in your videos. Now this video and the Star Wars edit and some of my previous videos were filmed in HLG3 from Sony. So that's a picture profile, and it kind of gives you more dynamic range and how you can edit the colors. Now, I'm not a colorist or color grader, so I don't actually know what I'm doing. I just kind of slap on a LUT, also called a lookup table, and adjust the colors from there. Sometimes I like to add a little bit more red tints into my shadows and dark colors, just because I like the way it looks. Again, it's all personal preference, but you probably don't want to adjust the colors too much to where it looks like too unnatural. I mean, you can. I know from the last time I recorded a behind the scenes video was for the blue Cardistry video, and I did purposely make like the grass and the landscape bluer because that was the theme of the video. So again, you can play around with colors. Just know that sometimes if you play around with them too much, you might get more grainy footage and it looks less of the quality kind of gets ruined at times. And then I guess the last thing is that as I was playing through the song, I found an opportunity for it to loop because the end kind of sounds like it's going in reverse. Overall, I think the video turned out well, and interestingly enough, it was not at all how I imagined it, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, and that's kind of how the process goes. Thank you guys for watching this video. Hopefully it wasn't too boring. Hopefully it had helpful information. Sorry that it was kind of unorganized. Be sure to let me know what kind of videos you would like in the comments down below. Of course, I've got more tutorials, other cardistry related stuff, so stay tuned for that. And yeah, hopefully I'll see you next time. Goodbye.